Warning, viewer discretion is advised. This video is not being made out of ill intent. In this video, I toured the remains of Sachsenhausen Concentration Camp that is just outside of Berlin, Germany. This camp housed several 100,000 men during the period of the Holocaust. Here's a layout of the camp. It was originally built in triangular form. This camp was the first camp that was built by the SS. To the left, there are industries, and to the right, there are neighborhoods for the SS. This is one of the clubs that the SS had on the property, a luxury prisoners couldn't enjoy. And next, we are going to be walking into the camp through the same doors that the prisoners once walked through several decades ago. Walking into the camp, you see where the guards used to stand. Then you see a sign that says, "Work sets you free." This is anything but the truth. Looking around the camp, you can tell that a lot of buildings are missing. Due to the history of this camp, that's not very surprising. Here is the area of the camp where the prisoners stood and took for roll call. It never had grass back then. Here is the fence that surrounded the entirety of the camp, with a wall, an electric fence, barbed wire, and gravel. Many prisoners led to their notorious demise due to the man manning the machine gun murdering them if they tried to escape. On both sides you see infirmaries. Concentration camps spread illness and disease like wildfire. Here is the building of the Pathologist. Unfortunately, many notorious events took place here, such as experimentation and the deconstruction of bodies. Essentially being one of the only morgues that was on this premises, it was very eerie to be in. Up next, I am going into the room where actual human bodies were once laid upon the tables and experimented upon, deconstructed, and just used for cruel and unusual purposes. This room just gave such a overwhelming feeling of sadness and disbelief that this was once happening in the real world. The basement shared this cruel history as well. Unfortunately, many prisoners, alive and dead, were both stored in this building. Supposedly, there were other things stored in this building as well, but that information was not released on my tour. While walking towards Station Z, I was able to catch a better glimpse of one of the watchtowers. These towers had armed guards that were prepared to attack any prisoner at any moment. Here is a wall that describes the history of Sachsenhausen from 1936 until its demise in 1945. Take a quick glance at some of the pictures that you see. Here we have an overview photo of what the camp looked like. I just pointed out the triangular shape that it was once built in. This shape did not remain long, as this camp was eventually expanded. I am now entering the grounds of Station Z. This was the place where most of the prisoners ended up being murdered. In the trench, small group executions took place here. This is where the large group executions took place. These are just some of the photos of the men that were murdered, and this is where their ashes are said to remain. Many men were brought into this room, which served as a gas chamber. This part of the camp was built in the late 1930s. Unfortunately, many lives were lost instantly upon arrival. This is where the bodies were cremated, and there is a statue in remembrance of those who lost their lives. This monument was built by Soviet soldiers after the camp was closed. Up next, I'm going to show you one of the prisons. This prison held mainly people that were not Jewish, but political leaders that stood against the Nazi Party. People that were too famous to be out with the rest of the population, but still had to endure suffering in this camp. All prisoners resided in terrible living conditions. Unfortunately, many met their fate due to illness. Each cell had different things to display. For instance, this was the actual layout. This is what a good room looked like in the prison. Unfortunately, many didn't even have beds. And here is a real-life example of one of the people that lived inside this cell. There was a lot more to this prison, including these torture devices outside. Next, we're entering one of the bunkers. This is where the general population once lived. They slept 2 to 3 people on each bed. This is the restroom. There was not really any running water. This was the washroom where people didn't have water to get ready. And that concludes my tour. This video was made for informational purposes, but make sure you go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel to be able to see more content in the future.